being first, you start to realize very, very quickly that you're onto something, and then you have to scramble. That's why it's luck that you hit that timing. It's fearlessness that you dig in to the timing and lean in, and then it's what you do with that gift that will decide if you make or break.
Welcome to Girls Make Bank, the podcast show for women who want to learn the art of selling for business and for life. I'm Jack White, seasoned sales professional, entrepreneur, and owner of Honeybees Group. Come back each week to hear inspiring stories from some of our favorite business owners. Learn how to take the ache out of selling and make bank. We're all in this together, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Girls Make Bank. This is the podcast where women learn how to sell with confidence, authenticity, and strategy. I'm your host, Jack White, and today we are exploring a game-changing idea: how to turn your lifestyle business into a valuable asset, one that can even be sold. This is the dream. This is the goal. This is something I think everybody should be thinking about. And my guest is Carrie Kerpen. She's the founder of the Whisperer Group. This is exactly what she does. She's an expert in helping women entrepreneurs think bigger and build businesses that align with their values while creating real, long-lasting, valuable assets. In this episode, Carrie is sharing her insights on shifting your mindset, preparing your business for growth, and overcoming the challenges women often face when scaling. Now, she knows from firsthand experience, Carrie has built, scaled, and sold her own businesses before. So if you are ready to think beyond day-to-day operations and start building for the future, you want to stick around. This is the conversation for you. Grab your notebook, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe a glass of wine, and let's dive in. Thanks for listening to Girls Make Bank. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Girls Make Bank, where we teach women how to sell. And today we are in for a treat. We are with Carrie Kerpen. Carrie, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to spend some time with you.
Thank you, Jack. I've started listening. I'm so excited for you about this launch and just really, really thrilled to have you share your message with women who are looking to grow.
Thank you so much. And I know we are very mission aligned in helping women make money in business. And I want to dig into all of that and what you're doing. First, take us back to the beginning and tell us how you got your start in entrepreneurship and business.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the fairy tale story and then I'll give you the real story.
I love that.
Fairy tale story is my husband, before he was my husband, wanted to get married and wanted everyone he's ever known to come to his wedding. And Jack, I don't mean like his friends from high school. I literally mean if he was on this podcast, he'd be like, if you're listening, please come watch me marry my bride. And we live in New York City. There was nowhere that we could hold that many people and certainly not afford it. And, neither of us came from any major means. And so we had to get creative. And we ended up pitching a minor league ballpark. We went to them and we said, we both love baseball. And we said, hey, how much does it cost to sponsor your night? They said $6,000. We said, okay, great. Is it possible to if we buy that from you, can we resell in sponsors to the game? And they said, sure. What are you thinking? And we said, well, like instead of Pepsi tossing t-shirts into the audience, 1-800-Flowers could toss bridal bouquets and we'll invite brides. It'll be cute and campy and fun. And then we'll get married on the field after the game. We'll raise some money for charity. We'll get some press. Like it was really like, I would describe it as the first successfully done sponsored wedding because the wedding itself wasn't sponsored. The game was sponsored. They said to us, you're crazy, but try it. We did $100,000 in sponsorships later to afford, I guess it was close to 1,000
wedding. Dream wedding budget.
And married in front of 5,000 people at the game. And then also we were able to raise over $20,000 for the National MS Society.
Amazing.
And we were able to get tons and tons of press. Like, Jack, I don't mean like local news. I mean like CNBC on the Money, ABC World News Tonight. It was huge. And all of the sponsors who had us,
Yeah.
who participated came to us and said, "Oh my God, you guys, this was so amazing. Like, we'd bet on you. Do
Yeah.
it again." And we were like, "We're not gonna have a sponsored baby, not gonna have a sponsored divorce.
Not
Like,
sponsoring my
what
whole
do we
life.
do?"
What do we do with
No,
this?
no, no, no. So we started an agency based on word of mouth marketing. And then we were married in 2006, 2007, Facebook opened beyond the college market. And we were like, oh my goodness, social
Hmm.
media is the fastest form of word of mouth. We became a social media agency and we grew. So that's the fairy tale
Yeah.
story. The real story, that is the behind the scenes story, is that when I married Dave, I was a single mom and I was working in media sales. And my offices were in the eastern part of Long Island. I worked for Cox Media Group. And every day I would drive because it was like supposed to be the reverse commute, but it was
Hmm.
hours. And I would get home so late. Like Dave was basically like raising
Yeah.
Shar and my oldest. And I was like, I can't, this is not tolerable for me. And so for me, the real reason was yes, we had this moment that gave me the
Yeah.
confidence to
Yeah.
do it. I don't know if I would have had confidence, but the reality was I needed a lifestyle change and I needed a business that would allow me to be a mother and live a
Hmm.
life that was tenable
Yeah.
for me. It just
Yeah.
wasn't. It
And
wasn't.
so many women become, I call that accidental entrepreneurship. You do something, it's successful, or you have this problem that you're going to build a product or a service to solve. And you realize that this 9 to 5 or 7 to 7, in your case, right, with the commute tacked in, isn't fitting into your life. You need a different life. And so many women, I mean, you really made this bold move early on. I think post pandemic, during the pandemic, a lot of women have left the corporate workforce and are starting their own companies.
Yeah, and it's hard. It takes a lot of confidence to do it. It takes a lot of pushing past
Yeah.
fear to do it. And the only way I was able to push past that fear was the success of
Yeah.
that wedding because the wedding was like, "Oh my God, I can do
Yeah.
crazy things." But even when I did it still, I took baby steps. And I think it was really something that gave me the confidence to push past the fear of jumping into
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. But once I did, I never looked back.
Like Global Media was one of the first social media agencies. Talk about
Mhm.
being the first and how you grow the business when nobody else is doing what you're doing.
Okay. So the first has a lot to do with luck. It has a lot to do with fearlessness and leaning
Mhm.
in. When I decided with Dave that we were going to be a social media agency, it was Dave who pushed to do that. I mean, he was fearless and I was filled with fear the entire time. Remember, I'm doing it because I want time at home. When he says, I want to be a social media agency, and we start to get calls from Fortune 500 companies, that wasn't in my game plan. My game plan was to watch The View, do a little bit of consulting, breastfeed Shar, and like just be like good. And so being first, you start to realize very, very quickly that you're onto something. And then you have to scramble. It's the opposite of needing to
Mhm.
generate revenue.
Mhm.
Things are coming to you. But it's more about you need to quickly perfect a
Yeah.
product to be able to have an offering or you miss the opportunity. That's why it's luck that you hit that
Mhm.
timing. It's fearlessness that you dig in to the timing and lean in. And then it's what you do with that
Yeah.
gift that will decide if you make or
Yeah.
break. And so in the beginning, it was like, it was crazy. I didn't have to think about sales in the
Right.
beginning. But certainly, the one thing that is for sure about being first is that somebody's going to be second and third and fourth, and they're going to take every mistake that you made and fix it and make
Yeah.
it better. So you cannot rest ever on
Yeah.
being first.
And we've seen that over and over with businesses, right? Ride sharing, renting out your space. I mean, this happens all the time. And I think, there's this misconception that, well, one, most businesses need to generate leads in the beginning. But two, having a lot of leads and not having a perfect product or a process it's a good problem to have. It's still a problem.
Yeah, it's a better problem to have. Revenue solves most problems. It certainly hides most problems. Don't have revenue, your problems are exacerbated. Every small problem is now a huge problem because you're scrambling. And there are many points in the likable journey, which I'm happy to tell you about, where I had to like really dig in and figure out how to sell. The beginning was, how do I perfect the product? How do I not like, I mean, I'll tell you, Jack, like Neutrogena, like called me on the phone. Like legit, hi, we're from Neutrogena. Like I had no business working with Neutrogena. I've never run an agency in my life. So it's what you do with that.
Right.
And it's how you accept that gift in the beginning, how you protect the integrity of what you've built. I have it now with the Whisper Group. We'll talk about this later, but there's really nobody that positioned exit
Mm-hmm.
planning in the way that
Yeah.
I have. So it's
Yeah. I'm
first.
I'm
So
obsessed with it, and it's such important work. It's such important work. Tell me about, once that initial surge of people coming to you, you think, oh, this is it, like, pff, but then you have to iterate, and then you have to go out and get sales. Talk to me about that process and like building up that muscle within your business.
okay, so this story I think will be really relevant to your listeners. So as I mentioned, I co-founded it with my husband, Dave. He was the face of the business. He was a
Mm-hmm.
CEO. He was a revenue generator. I was the operator. I was making sure that Neutrogena didn't fall apart. Okay. That was a very safe space for me to be in because I didn't have to think
Right.
about the growing of the revenue. Now, because Dave was a visionary and a CEO and a leader, he saw so many other opportunities beyond our lifestyle business, which was
Mm-hmm.
an agency, which an agency is essentially a lifestyle business. And he wanted to raise funds for software. He was going to go build tech. I decided that if we were going to build tech, it has to be
Mm.
separate. I did not want, and this was a really important decision because I did not want to take all the profits from the agency and funnel it into tech and have no idea what would
Right.
happen. And if he was going to raise money, I didn't want people to have equity in my lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
business. Like that was no. That decision was very important. We'll talk about that after. But when Dave left,
Left
I now
likable
became the
media. Now you're
left
doing it
likable
on your
media.
own.
Now
So
it's
your
just me.
visionary
He did not
CEO,
leave. He did
leader,
not leave the current.
partner, and
He did
husband's
leave the business.
gone.
Real good.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm stepping in. So it's
Yeah.
2013. Okay. We've been running it 6 years. We're now like, a few things are
Mm-hmm.
different. First of all, social media is no longer new, and we are certainly no
The
longer
shiny thing.
unique
Yep.
in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Number two, we had focused so much on growth because we had all these clients coming in. We did not have time to focus on being profitable. When you have to staff for a
Mm-hmm.
Neutrogena, you need a lot of people. And we didn't have any money. We took $10,000 from the wedding. Those are gifts. And we said, okay, here, let's put it into this company. So,
Yeah.
not new, not profitable. And everyone around me was like Gary
Yeah.
Vaynerchuk, a big, screaming, cool man in the social space. And Dave was like
Mm-hmm.
that too. And that was not me. And so there I step in, and new business had slowed almost to a halt. So what was I going to do? So what I did, uh, besides being paralyzed with fear for a moment, I took a deep breath and I decided to really lean into who I was. And I ended up starting a podcast called All the Social Ladies because I felt that my deep discomfort with telling my own story was probably not unique to just
Mm-hmm.
me. And that when I was watching people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who were every single day on social media, I did not feel like I could ever
Yeah.
do that. And I thought maybe other women felt that too. So I started interviewing women at the mid level brand who worked in social
Mm-hmm.
media to tell their. So these were prospects for me. And I did so without any agenda. Like, I'm going to interview you, I'm going to tell your story, and I'm going to know you. And later, if you ever need social media help, you're going to know who to call because
Yeah.
you know me. So I set a very long tail strategy with that. I then operationalized the business for profitability. I fixed sort of some of the stuff that was there. I slowed the growth a
Mm-hmm.
little and I did more long term. And that in turn allowed me to double and then triple the business.
Amazing.
which got me to
Yeah.
exit. I mean, that was really, All the Social Ladies was a great example of understanding what my strengths were as
Yeah.
a leader versus everyone else around me, and just like betting on that long tail strategy. I thought about how I could add value to my prospects. How could I add value to them
Yes.
without worrying about me? I knew that it would
Yes.
pay off long term,
And
and it did.
that's what you're saying is so like mind exploding for a couple different reasons. Because number one, I think as women, we look at the successful people around us, and they're mostly men. And we think we have to emulate that energy, that strategy in order to be successful. And you said, no, that's not it for me. I'm going to try it this other way. That's what Girls Make Bank and Honeybees Group is all about, is teaching women how to sell in a way that feels good and gets results for us. So I love that you were able to like make that bold move to say, you know what, that's not my style. I'm going to find something that is. And the other thing that's amazing is this idea of, you know, doing something of service without expecting anything in return, or building the relationship and thinking about it in the long tail opportunity, because that's also such an amazing sales asset. Is, you know, selling is really about providing a service, being a solution, and you sort of marrying those two things to say, one, I need to be a thought leader in this space, and two, I need to create a sales process and funnel and engine that feels good to me. it,
That's
it,
right.
it makes your business grow in a way that, one, is successful, and two, feels authentic and good.
Yeah, I mean, I needed to have what I wanted to build was an army of women that I could help that also had my back. Because the reality is, when you start a services business, what makes you unique? Anytime I ask someone, like, what's your secret sauce? What is it? It's almost always like, it's the people. Okay. We all do the same things. We all have so many competitors. It's very rare that you're in a space where you have no competition. And if you have no competition, then maybe you don't really have product market fit, because if it works, there's going to be a lot of you. And so the only thing that's really going to long term differentiate you, especially in a services space, is your relationships. And so for me, I built those relationships. I started that podcast, I think, in 2014. And when I sold and I had to hit a number, like there were targets associated with that, and talk about that later. I I had to make some calls and be like, "Hi, I need your help." And because I had never done that, because I was so focused on giving to others, it was extremely, extremely easy to make that call, because you're not constantly asking. It's really about building strong relationships so that you can ask, when, because the chances are we all have great products, we all have great offerings. So it's about what's going to have someone choose you over
Yeah.
anyone else.
So tell me, at what stage did you know that it was time? What was the catalyst for the exit of Likeable Media?
Okay. So if we go back to
Mm-hmm.
2013, Dave leaves the business. I'm terrified. Terrified. And I start my podcast, I do what I have to do, but I also read a really great book called Built to Sell
Mm-hmm.
by John
Great book.
Warrillow.
Everybody should read it if you haven't read it.
Oh, it's such an easy
Yeah.
book. It's such an easy book. It's literally it's a
Yep.
parable, so it's like a fiction story about a guy who goes to sell his PR agency, and he ends up being worth
Mm-hmm.
nothing. He meets with an advisor because it's all about him, and nothing is replicable, and it's not going to be anywhere worth what he wants to retire from. So the guy helps him put these systems in place, and then there's an implementation guide. Okay. So I read this and I decide, like, pretty early, like, okay, if I'm going to go through this now, because now our whole income is based on
Mm-hmm.
this. Now we have two kids. We want a third. Like, your
Life is
lifestyle gets
real.
bigger. Yeah, it's real. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to build this puppy to sell. And I don't know exactly when, but I know we will. And I would have every year, I would have like a strategic
Yeah.
planning meeting with Dave and be like, okay, are we ready? So after the start of COVID in 2020, digital agencies tended to do really well, and especially social media agencies, because all eyes were on social media. It was a time of great political
Mhm.
unrest, both with COVID and a lot of the stuff going on with racial inequity and racial justice. And brands were expected in that moment in time to comment on a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff. It made them deeply uncomfortable and they needed experts. So lot of business came to Likeable from that, especially because of the relationships I had
Mhm.
built, which were deep. They knew that they could call me and ask these
Yeah.
types of
And
uncomfortable
trust you.
questions. As a
Yeah.
result, yeah, yeah. And as a result, we grew um more than we were growing like this, like pretty, like
Good
it's
business.
not a
Yeah,
rocket
but
ship. It's a good, healthy
mhm.
business. Yeah. And in 2020, we had a good jump. And I was also realizing that I was tired, but not dead
Mhm.
inside. And I decided that the time to sell, even though, I had a vision in my head of what I would sell for, and I realized I would have to do it, I don't know, 5 or 6 more years if I hit that. But the number that I would sell for in that moment would be good
Yeah.
enough. Like it
Yeah.
was enough. So I decided that I had enough left in me that I could be alive in an earnout and I could help transition it to an
Mhm.
acquirer. I would probably make the entirety of the number. And the earnout, for your listeners who don't know, is when you have a services business, you're paid upfront. And then you have like metrics you have to hit
Yeah.
over a couple of years. And that's to ensure that the business doesn't like go away
Fall.
the second you
Mhm.
go. Okay. So I knew I had enough life in me to hit the earnout. I knew that the money would be enough that it would change my
Mhm.
life. And I also knew that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. I didn't exactly know the Whisper Group, but I knew there was something brewing in there. And so we signed with an advisor in December of 20, and we closed in April of
Wow,
21.
that's
It was a
fast.
very yeah, it was an acquisitive time. The cash was free flowing because of
Mhm.
all of like the
Business
um,
incentives and
dollar.
mhm.
Yes, so many business incentives and borrowing. It was cheap to
Yep.
borrow. And so everybody was interested in acquiring at that time. And so I decided, and then I sold, and then I worked for 3 years for
Yeah.
the acquirer.
Amazing. And then how I'm going to get back to likable media and some of the things you did,
Yeah.
but tell me about the Whisper Group because I am obsessed. I believe in the mission. I think it's so powerful and I think it's life-changing what you're building and the impact that it will have on women and their families. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very meaningful to me. I believe it is my calling and my life's work. Um, okay, so I go through the sales process. Because Dave is not active in the business
Mhm.
at this point, he is not to participate in the discussions with the acquirers. It's
Yeah.
me. And I feel I had a great advisor, but I feel so alone and I feel so
Yeah.
dumb. Like there's questions I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't go
you
to
don't know
business
the
school.
things
Like
you don't
I
know.
who the
Yeah.
hell knows? Like I didn't understand working capital. I really didn't understand any of it. And I was like, wow, women are really under resourced and underrepresented when it comes to exit planning. And it's not just the financial part, it's the like emotional part. It was so much harder than I anticipated. And so that is where I got the first spark of what would come next for me. And so I started thinking about, I had a good exit at a good multiple. Like I really did. And I don't think I realized at that time how well I did. And then I started looking into it. I started realizing that other women who had sold, which are few and far between and hard to find, also felt that. And so I decided I wanted to start an exit readiness advisory practice for women owned businesses. And I named it the Whisper Group because Whisper can stand for each of the tenets that are needed to build a healthy, sellable business. So your why, your how, your income, your secret sauce, your profit, your exec team, and your roar factor, which is like how confident you're going to be in that room full of men when they're ripping your shit to shreds, which is what they do. I mean, that's their job. They want to make sure their investment is good. And so the Whisper Group launched. I decided that I wanted to build a community of exited female founders to match people with. So, like, if somebody had a product business, I'm not necessarily your best experience share because I had a services business. So I built this community of exited female founders and I started matching founders with women who've exited in their vertical or close. And when I launched, um, this is very similar to Likeable in that I felt like I'm not the first in exit planning. It's not like it didn't exist. Like social media actually didn't exist. But I do feel like I'm the first to market it this way and speak to women in this way and provide offerings that help women in this way. And therefore, I have had that same feeling of the influx of, oh shit, now I have to protect the product. And I'm anticipating that I will very soon be in that same space where I was in 2013, where, oh my God, now I'm going to have to grow. Now I'm going to have to work on the sales. Now I'm going to have, what am I going to invest in to grow? And so I'm doing that work now. But this has been the ride of a lifetime because there's really two or three things that are different. The first is I have enough financial security to be less afraid. So that's why I love exiting businesses, even if you exit and go to another business, even if it's not FU money, like it's enough to let you breathe and have less fear. So I have more money in the bank. It is extremely mission aligned, at which Likeable I loved, but it was really Dave's decision to go into social media. I liked social media, but I loved more like I built a team and the culture and all of that. And I loved sales, but this is mission aligned. And then finally, I'm building this with the learnings and experience of what I've learned from Likeable. So those are the three things that are
Yeah.
really different. And that's why I think everyone should have, like everyone who has a first business should have a second
Yeah.
business because it's amazing the learnings.
Talk to me about, because like I said, I think there are a lot of women right now who have become accidental entrepreneurs, and you became
Yes,
an accidental entrepreneur.
I
What
did.
are the
I
one
did.
or two or three things that you would have done differently at the beginning of Likeable that you advise people to do now that would have set you up for success? Because I think people can grow a life, and just let's talk about lifestyle versus scale businesses for a
Mhm,
second.
mhm, mhm.
Lifestyle businesses, and jump in and add anything, are businesses that you build that fuel your lifestyle, right? It's
Yeah.
typically an LLC, it's a service or a product based business. And you can have a small team, you can have a big team, but you really take the money from that, the profit from that, and you reinvest it in your business. And that becomes your paycheck at the end of the month and the end of the year. Versus a scale business that typically from the onset, you're potentially taking on outside capital. And the goal is to get as big as you can at some sort of speed and then sell. So lifestyle businesses are typically built not always with an exit in mind, but I love that you are planting this seed for women that you can build a lifestyle business that is also a sellable asset, because that is a huge unlock in terms of how much money we can make, what we can do with our business. I love, 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 love everything you're doing. And so tell me one to two to three things that you would have done different that you tell people now if you're at the early stages of building a lifestyle business. Think about this at the beginning.
It's a great question, and I'm so happy you asked it. I don't know that I've been asked this on a podcast before, and I will tell you my thoughts because I have many. I believe that every single business should be a lifestyle business, even if you raise
Yeah.
capital. Like the idea is you only have one life. You have one life. And your job in that time during that life is to build a life that is worth living. And so, why so many of us discount the concept of a lifestyle
Mhm.
business, I will never, ever understand. Because I understand you need to raise capital. I mean, I feel so
Yeah.
strongly about this. I understand product businesses, you may need to raise capital. You may need to give some equity for raising that capital. Okay. Is there an expectation that you'll exit that one day once you raise capital?
Yes.
Yes. When you have an actual lifestyle business, are you going to exit that business one day? Yes. So to me, every business should be a
Mhm.
lifestyle business. I discussion over and over that at the Whisper Group, I say, we can turn your lifestyle business into a life changing asset. And I got a little pushback from people who've raised, which is, well, I'm not a lifestyle business. And for me, like if I could change the thinking, and this is where I'll
Yeah.
get to the
Yeah.
answer in
No,
your
I love
question. If I
this.
could lifestyle business, that's when we really win because you are living a life while you're building
Yeah.
that business. And whether you like it or not, whether you like your lifestyle or
Mm-hmm.
not, it is a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle business because your lifestyle and how you're living it, whether you're grinding around the clock because you have 50 investors that demand it, or whether you are going to every soccer game because you bootstrapped it yourself, like that's your
Yeah.
lifestyle. So, what I would tell lifestyle businesses in the traditional sense today is to first recognize that you will one day exit this business and start thinking about that plan. And that doesn't mean that you need to know how much you're going to sell for. And it doesn't mean that you even know when. I just want you to start getting in touch with, is this business a saleable asset? And the way you know it's a saleable asset is if it is
Mm-hmm.
transferable. If you picked up this business and you handed it to someone else, would they make money? Would they understand what
Yeah.
you do? And would they be able to do what you do? And so I would say the thing that I didn't do early enough was think about how my business could be transferable because quite frankly, I think I was a little bit obsessed with myself and my own ego. Oh, only I could do this. Oh, everyone has to speak to me. Oh, I'm running all the social ladies. Oh, it's me. If I could do that earlier, if
Mm-hmm.
I could say, okay, I'm building this team and I'm going to extract myself a little bit, I would. Not immediately, but I
Yeah.
would need to think about
In the beginning, it does
how
have to be you. One, because you might not
it
have a
has to be
team, but two,
all
you're
you.
the one. It lives
Yeah,
in here. It
yeah.
lives in
Why do
here.
you think I'm in
Yeah.
a dirty baseball hat right now, like a mess? Because that's the
Yep.
beginning. It's
Yep.
appropriate. It's appropriate to be the janitor
Yep.
in the beginning. It's
Yep.
everything. You're
Yep.
everything. But longer term, as you grow, think about, okay, how long am I going to live like
Yeah.
this in
Yeah.
this lifestyle? When am I going to be able to build it to not be? And then when am I going to eventually make this
Yeah.
transferable? And I think setting those limits for yourself, like, listen, this place, the space where I'm in your month 5
Yep.
of the Whisper Group. The space where I'm in, I'm doing everything. And I think it's extremely important that
Yeah.
I do, that I learn it. And I also think it is mission critical that I have a timeline for when I
Mm.
won't. Okay, at this point, with this revenue marker, at this space where I can afford it, this is the first hire
Yeah.
partner,
Yeah.
whatever I'm going to do to be able to scale. And that's really it. It's just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. Really recognizing that every business that you start, I don't care if you're an interior designer, solopreneur, like they are sellable assets. If you think about it in that way, you are able to create an asset that
Yeah.
is sellable.
That's amazing. And I think in the beginning, and so many people with lifestyle businesses build the brand around themselves. And so they don't think of it as something that somebody else would want. But there's a lot. One, if you have paying clients, somebody else wants those
Yeah,
clients. If you have a process or, anything that you are doing that's unique to your business is something that
yeah,
somebody else is willing to pay for.
you bet. And you can
Yeah.
find another solopreneur that has a burgeoning, great coaching business. That if you have a
Mm-hmm.
coaching business and you find another group that has a similar offering, those clients might be apt to follow somebody else with a
Yeah.
strong personal brand. So it's, and or you can sell to employees. There are so many different
Yeah.
avenues, so many different avenues for how you can exit. People think it's completely not doable. It is both doable to sell your business. It's also doable to acquire. There are plenty of companies that would just shut down
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't, so you can acquire for very little. There's a lot of really interesting things to think
Yeah.
about there.
I love that. You mentioned that you hired an advisor when you thought about selling your business. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about one of the things that I think is really important, regardless of where you are, is kind of having your personal board of directors in life
Yes.
and in business? Can you talk about what
Yep.
that means to you and how it's helped you? I mean, the advisor is paid, they have stake in the game to
That's
sell.
like a broker.
Right.
That's a broker. Bye. We're putting that to the side. The question
Is
you asked is
how do
about
you, because
personal board.
nobody does this alone. And you
Yes.
are lucky and amazing that you have a husband that also helped you and understood the business and saw the opportunity. That's a little bit
Yep.
rare. What does your personal board of directors look like in business that helps you kind of level yourself up?
In my first book, Work It, which came out in 2017, while I was still running Likeable, I wrote about a fabulous personal advisory board, PAB, personal advisory board. Okay. And so for me, I think of it like I'm sitting at a table and I have these people I can call at
Mm-hmm.
any moment for different things. So I have a personal advisory board of people who I call for different things. I will tell you that in business, I had two areas that really served me well. The first was I ended up hiring a former client who was like being accessed from, the company was like, oh, it was actually paper products company, kind of like the office in that way. And she was at a stage where she was almost done with her career. I think she was in her 50s at that
Mm-hmm.
time. And she said, I would love to come help you. And this was when I was really growing and like thinking about getting ready for sale. It was just me. And I didn't realize how much I really needed someone like that in my life. And she worked for me for a while. And then what I did, I needed her so much. I offered her a small amount of phantom equity.
Phantom equity. Tell me what is that?
Okay, so phantom equity is when it's not on your cap table, it doesn't really exist, it's phantom. But when you sell, if there's an event, there's a certain
Mm,
percentage allocated
okay.
to that person. So what it does is it keeps
Yeah.
them engaged for the long haul, and it's thank you. You can do it if you want to retain employees for a long period of time. You can say, I can't pay you market rate because I'm small, but I can offer you that if I do ever have an event, you will get a
Okay.
percent of my exit or something like that. Okay. So I offered her that. And she didn't even need that to be able to advise me. She was by my side the entire time. And then other people that I leaned in on, I joined originally. It was part of, I think, entrepreneurs organization or something, but we did an informal offshoot of
Mm-hmm.
just agency owners. And I found that bonding with other, and I from there I met, it wasn't in the entire group, but I met a couple of women who had shared experiences that allowed me to bond
Yeah.
with them so deeply. Those were like my ride or die when I was going through that sales process. That is who I called. And I think you have to, and I find different people for different things. I have a friend who I call, if I have anything going on with my kids, or I have, there's different
Yeah.
people for
Yeah.
different parts of your life. But I'll tell you that the women that got me through that growth scale and exit, it was wild. And I
Yeah.
am very blessed to have Dave as an advisor on all things that I do.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's hard
Yep.
because it's your
Yeah.
partner too. So it was like, it's really
Outside.
great to be able
Yeah.
to have those women
And I
in my
mean,
life.
essentially that's what you're
Unique.
building at the Whisper Group is
Yeah,
is
that's
this
right.
is, we're going to match you up
That's
and
exactly
help
right.
you go, with someone who has been through this before. And so we're going to short
Yeah.
cut your way there, which is great.
Yes. Exactly. That's exactly right. And so it's a mix of like you have the support from those women and then you have valuations of where you stand and potential acquirers. So it's like a mix before you
Yeah.
go to a broker
Yeah.
or anything like that. And you may be able to even do your
Yeah.
exit yourself if you're small enough and you're ready, you're fearless enough, and
I
we're
love it.
helping you along the way. Absolutely.
Where can people find you and the Whisper Group?
Okay, so it's so funny when I was talking about how people were talking on social media all day. I'm very active on social media now. I'll tell you why. Actually, so I've been filming all these short
Mm-hmm.
videos. I think it's because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. The content is easy. So I record a lot of content. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Carrie Kerpen. You can find the Whisper Group at wearethewhispergroup.com. And then if you want to listen to my podcast, which talks to exited female founders, so these are all members of my community, you can go to the Exit
Wonderful.
Whisperer anywhere.
And all
podcast.
of that is going to be below in the show notes, and we will tag Carrie on everything that we post about this episode. So you'll be able to find her. If you are building a lifestyle business, I highly, highly encourage you to look at the Whisper Group, to research how you can start building your business in a way that it does become a sellable asset, because I've learned from Carrie, there are things you can do that will increase or decrease the value of your company.
That's right.
And having that in mind as you build is really important. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been
Of
really fun for me.
course. Oh, I'm so happy to do it. And we do some early stage exit planning stuff, like some introductory
Oh,
products. And I'm
great.
happy to offer any listeners of your podcasts. I can definitely just mention that you came from
Yes.
Jack, and I will happily give you a discount. And just so excited to support your community, Jack, and thrilled to support you in this venture of what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
It's really
Thank
is.
you. And we're going to include some information about this. So,
Yeah,
Carrie's early stage programs, we'll make sure to have it there and tag it and give you all of the information so that you can learn more. Thank
awesome.
you.